It's really amazing to watch what a unified group that we have.
And so what A Twist of Fate has done is put us all together. It's allowed us to pool our data, pool our resources.
The clinic in the United States and A Twist of Fate, we can gather all this information, we can inform patients about their management, and we can provide treatment for those complications.
But with the nonprofit and all the other mothers behind me, I didn't feel alone anymore.
Hi, my name is Terry Reardon, and I am a manager and a therapist here at Newview, Oklahoma. And here at Newview, Oklahoma, our sole purpose is to help those living with some type of visual impairment, whether they are a young child all the way through grown adults. Newview, Oklahoma is a nonprofit agency. We have 2 rehab offices, one in Tulsa and one in Oklahoma City, but we do cover the whole state. So no matter where a person lives in the state of Oklahoma, we do our best to be able to get out to their home, especially so that we can see the environment that the individual lives in, to help us to better assess their living condition and to help them be able to live a more safe and efficient and independent life as much as possible in their own environment. So we are filming this with our friend Andrea Taylor from A Twist of Fate. And if you are out of the state of Oklahoma and you have any questions concerning Newview, Oklahoma, or anything on this video, please feel free to reach out to her and she will gladly get a hold of me and we will get back with any answers that we can. So today I am going to work with Aiden here, and I'm just going to go over 3 things that we find very important when it comes to working with somebody with some type of visual impairment. Everything usually comes back to these 3 things. Now we are going to talk about a 4th, which is assistive technology, and we'll get to that towards the end. But when we're talking about somebody that has low vision, there's 3 areas that we really want to look at for that person. We want to look at lighting, contrast, and magnification. These 3 areas can really help, whether it's a kid like Aiden who's in school, be able to see his coursework, be able to see what's on the computer, be able to answer questions on the test, or something like socializing, being able to go outside and play with his friends, and to where the parent or the teacher doesn't have to worry about his safety, because we can come up with ways to help him be able to see whether it's a crack in the sidewalk, a hole in the yard. There's so many different things that we can look at to make sure that somebody like Aiden or anybody else is going to be safe wherever they're at. So the next thing that I want to talk about is contrast. When we talk about contrast, what we're talking about is light on dark. And what I mean by that is, if I was in Aiden's home and I asked him to pour me a glass of milk and I put it in a white mug, there might be a chance that Aiden will overflow that cup, because you're going to have inside of that mug is going to be white. You're pouring milk, so you got white on white, and sometimes it's hard for somebody with a visual impairment to see that liquid rising, which in return can cause them to overflow that cup. Kind of like pouring coffee into a black mug. That's not always the best idea. So when we talk about contrast, we want to make sure that we have either a dark background with light on top or a light background with dark on top. So if Aiden said, I'm always overflowing my water when I pour it, and I notice he's pouring water into a clear glass, I'm going to tell him, okay, let's get rid of the clear glasses, let's go to plastic, or let's go to something with different colors on it. A lot of times we might put a remote control, which a lot of times is darker, on a couch or a chair, and if that chair or couch is darker, we could be looking right at that remote and not see it. And again, a simple thing would be, put a white towel on the arm of that couch or chair, put the remote on top of that. It's going to let that pop out a little bit easier for that. The other thing is, when we're talking about contrast, outside, especially when we're getting to the summertime, the sun is always our brightest light. And this is where kids, they want to spend time outside, but somebody like Aiden steps outside and it's bright and sunny, it might be too much for his eyes. And a lot of times to tell if somebody is irritated by that light is they're going to cover their eyes like this when they step outside, or if they're in a bright area, they'll do this. Basically what they're doing is they're trying to get that light out of their eyes. A lot of times they might wear a ball cap. Sometimes you might see individuals in like a shopping mall or a grocery store, and they're wearing dark sunglasses. A lot of times they do that, not all the times, but a lot of times they do that because of glare sensitivity, and they're trying to decrease that light intake to make seeing things a little bit easier, and that's where you can help with contrast. So somebody like Aiden, you know, socializing is so important, not only for kids but also for adults. And if somebody like Aiden, let's say he's at school and it's now time for recess, and his teacher says, well, you know, I'm sorry, Aiden, we can't let you go outside because the sun's really shining, and I know you're very sensitive to the sunlight. Well, now that causes somebody like Aiden to not be able to go outside and play with his friends. And unfortunately, that can have an effect on a young child. But something as simple as solar shields can make all the difference. And a couple years ago, I was able to actually work with Aiden, and we did do one of these assessments. And we were able to take him outside and figure out what type of solar shield worked best for his eyes. But in this case, I'm just showing you a couple of different pairs here. Again, I know we are kind of flying through this, and there would be a lot more in-depth assessment if it was an in-person training. But something like these are amber colored solar shields. The thing with amber colored is these are going to be really good for cloudy days, a little bit darker days, because what they're going to do is they are going to attract some light, but at the same time they're not going to attract too much light. Now these are not going to be good for nighttime, really dark areas, because unfortunately it is going to make things a little too dark. And in return, when you make things too dark, that could be hard for somebody like Aiden if he's outside playing and he goes from grass to concrete or concrete to grass, and if he doesn't see that transition, that could cause him to trip and fall, and we definitely wanted to keep them as safe as possible. Then you're going to have yellow. You know, yellow does attract light, so on a bright sunny day for a lot of our clients, yellow is not the best option because again it's going to attract even more light and it's going to make it even brighter outside. But where yellow is really good is nighttime areas, restaurants, when it's a little cloudy outside, because again it's going to attract that light and it's going to make things a little bit brighter, and it's going to increase that contrast just a little bit as well. And then there's also plum. You know, plum's going to be really good for those bright sunny days, and it's going to decrease that light intake, but it's also not going to make it too dark to where they can't see what's in front of them. You know, some of our patients are very light sensitive. You know, I don't recommend gray a whole lot because unfortunately with really dark gray sunglasses, you're pretty much taking all contrast away, and it can make it very hard for them to see, you know, if there's a crack in the sidewalk or if there's a different elevation. A lot of people don't realize a simple elevation change, whether it's up or down, can cause somebody to fall because they don't see that, and then they'll stumble forward. If there's a curb, if there's a step that they don't see, again, those are all tripping hazards, and we definitely want to, you know, do our best to get away from those. And also transitioning from inside to outside. A lot of clients, they'll call it the blind effect. If I am outside and it's really bright and sunny and I step inside of my home to where it's not as bright, a lot of times they have that, it's just a white fog and they can't see for about 30 seconds. Or if they're in a dark area and they step outside to a bright area, again, it takes their eyes just a little bit of time to adjust. So a lot of times putting on the solar shields or the glasses are going to help them transition, help their eyes transition a little bit faster. You know, they do make those transition lenses and glasses, and those are good. Unfortunately, sometimes it does take a little too long for those glasses to change, so they do have to kind of sit there and let those let the kind of the gray in those glasses transition so that they can decrease that sun intake. So Contrast, again, there's so many different things that we don't think about. Cooking, again, being able to tell the front burners from the back burners. Something as simple as putting a bright colored piece of duct tape on the front burners, so that if somebody wants to turn on the front burners, they say, okay, there's the tape. I know these 2 burners are the front ones. I don't want to turn these other ones because that's going to turn on the back burner. And a lot of times when we work with people, especially kids with cooking, we do our best to try to teach them to use the front burners as much as possible, so they're not having to reach over if they accidentally turned on the front burner and they meant to turn on the back burner, there's a chance they might burn themselves. Also, there are things that we call bump dots. Putting bump dots on a microwave can make all the difference for somebody like Aiden, to where if he wanted to make some popcorn, instead of him having to type in 300 start, he could feel wherever that bump is, and if it's on the popcorn button, then he can just hit that button. So these can make all the differences. And again, it's all about making things as simple as possible. The last thing we want to do is frustrate somebody like Aiden or any of our clients anymore, because a lot of times when you're dealing with visual impairment, they're already frustrated. They struggle with reading or writing or seeing somebody's face or getting around independently, so there's already that frustration level. And a lot of times individuals, when they hear low vision therapy, they think, well, now we're going to come in and just make it even more difficult for them, and that's not the case. Our job is to come in and make things as simple as possible, to give ideas that maybe the parent or the caregiver or the teacher, whoever it may be, never thought about, and to just make life a lot simpler for that individual. A quick example might be somebody might buy shampoo and conditioner. The bottles may look exactly the same, and they don't know how to tell the difference between the shampoo and conditioner. Put a rubber band over one of them. I tell them, do you feel the rubber band? Yes. Okay, that's your conditioner. Do you feel the rubber band? No. There's your shampoo. It's simple techniques like that that